Welcome, everyone, to our podcast. I'm Elizabeth Keller, Executive Director at Adelphi Research, and I'm here today with Kirsty Hope.
Hi there, my name's Kirsty Hope. I'm Innovation Director at Adelphi Research and excited to be here today talking with Elizabeth about all things innovation and Illuminate.
So we're here today to talk about why we even care about this thing called innovation, because we need to get direct insight in a context that we can then translate for our clients. So that's why we need to find new and better ways of really retaining that ability to tap into what people are really thinking, what's really driving their decision making.
And it's true what you say. So the world has changed and people's attention is diverted in so many different directions, and I think innovation is really a way that we can try and tap some of that precious attention. And like you say, it's equally important for both of our clients and our respondents. I think one of the challenges that things are changing at such a rapid pace that it's kind of how can we keep up with that? I think we were talking earlier about kind of primary market research and bespoke direct conversations with people. And I think brand teams are always going to need that because they're always going to need to understand the voice of their customers, but also the context within which that voice is generated. So I think it's just a challenge for us to make sure that we're moving with the times and doing that in the best way.
And I think you say direct conversations, but I also think it's important that they're directed conversations where we actually can take people through a discussion. Always what's top of mind is not always what's meaningful.
Exactly, which is where kind of all of the different tools and techniques that we've been developing come in.
Where we look at engaging with the gaming, with the implicit techniques, all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
So I think it would be good to get a little bit more involved and in depth on how innovation is playing a role in our business at Adelphi Research. It was really important that it really was not a team sitting on the side of the business or somewhere else tinkering away with things and throwing them in, but it's very much embedded in our culture. So that's the introduction of Illuminate.
Yeah, so and actually it is exactly what you've just said. So Illuminate is our home for all things innovation. So that is kind of particular areas that we're looking into, but it's also the spirit of innovation within the research team as a whole.
So maybe we can share a little bit on why the name Illuminate.
Sure, okay. So the idea behind this was that Illuminate is really there to shine a light on areas or things that we weren't aware of before, or perhaps that we couldn't even have imagined that existed. And whether that is things from within our industry or from other industries, kind of different types of inspiration, different types of techniques that are new to the work that we're doing. So it's really shining a light on things that we were not aware of or using before.
Sometimes I imagine it as being able to look in corners that we didn't have an ability to look at. So if we think about Illuminate and the importance of it as a real business change initiative, we really need to have core principles that actually guide us and are constant, but allow us, a certain level, in this case, high level of adaptability over time. Yeah. So do you want to share a little bit about those founding principles? So
I've got 4 sort of foundational principles or things that we strive to do that perhaps we can chat through. So the 4 are: number 1, generate and interpret higher quality insights for our clients. Number 2, sense the hype. Make sure I get this right. Number 3, work with our clients collaboratively. And number 4, apply, not adopt.
Yes. So let's go back into a little bit more detail on the better insights, because when we were first talking, it was like, that's even why we're even looking at innovation. We need to get better insight. Do you want to
it's exactly that. Basically, this is kind of our key underlying principle, is that everything we do should be with the aim of meeting a need in terms of research quality or insight. So making sure that actually the things that we develop within the Illuminate team add to research quality. We're not just in the business of developing shiny new things. And actually that links in with the second point, sense the hype.
Yeah.
So here what we're saying is that there's a lot of hype going on, there are a lot of buzzwords in the industry. So we kind of meaningfully and critically evaluate whether we think those things are just hype or whether we think they've got legs in terms of increasing the quality of research. So that's something that we try and challenge ourselves with.
Yeah, and I know I've seen in our work often running things in parallel to make sure we can evidence that difference.
Exactly.
Right.
So what we try and do is evaluate the value of different innovative methods compared to more traditional things that we might have done for many years in market research, to really have a look at what are we getting in addition here, and is this something that we think we can adapt going forward.
The next one was working collaboratively with clients. Is that right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important one because it sort of leads from those other things, which is sometimes it's the client's need that actually inspires, would you say?
Yes.
What we're looking at?
Yeah, it's really grounding any new solutions or any new ways of looking at things within the needs of our clients, and also bringing them along that journey with us.
Yeah.
And because they're excited about innovation as well. So the more kind of heads that we can get involved and the more people that can work together, I think the more valuable the solutions that we come up with are.
Yeah. I think when you bring them along the journey too, it's like sometimes it doesn't work. It doesn't give you better stuff. But if you're there sort of together, you can both say, well, you know, we wanted to try it, but now we know that's not necessarily going to bring us anything new. So we can rethink it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever.
And when it doesn't work, sometimes they make the best stories.
Yes, yeah.
And they give us the best learnings in terms of what will work going forward.
Remove the hype.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what was the last one then we want to look at?
So the last one was around apply, not adopt. So I think what we see increasingly within our industry is different solutions or different, I'm trying to think of the word, like platforms that you can add on to research approaches that you can either buy off the shelf or get from somewhere external, for example. And it's really easy to adopt those and add them to what we're doing already. And I think what we're challenging ourselves to do is really apply those to the work that we're doing and the problems that our clients have. So applying, not adopting.
Yeah. And sometimes you need to sort of try something out. But I do hear all the time the conversation is, okay, now how could we integrate this a little bit better, slightly make it more relevant in the broader context of the total project.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot of active work streams going on within the lab at the moment. So maybe we could finish up the discussion with talking about a few of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a couple of examples of the different work streams that are ongoing. There's lots of different ones, but I thought these three would be of interest. So the first one really is around engagement. So quite a broad concept. We've got some specific examples of what we've done within that area. So when we say engagement, we're looking at additional methods or techniques over and above your traditional question and answer to get at respondents' insights, so to get their attention and to get them to give us some good quality information. So a real example of that is in our messaging and brand perception research. So over the years, it's become a little bit of a fuzzy topic. So we've developed a new technique to try and tackle that. So to try and get respondents engaged in our surveys, but also to provide kind of more meaningful and more robust data to our clients. So what I'm alluding to here is Echo. So obviously you know about Echo.
Yeah.
So it's a knowledge-based game which aims to tap physicians' perceptions and knowledge about a brand rather than their ability to sort of parrot fashion recall messages about it. And I guess thinking about the future, not only future, but that leads me to think about Rapida as well. So obviously that's a solution for measuring the impact of some kind of stimulus on the market or understanding how things are or how things will be in a future market. So kind of both qual and quant insight generated in a really sort of agile and quick way. So yeah, that makes me think about that.
Yeah, that's great. So I know I was touching on a little bit that rational, projective, hypothetical, getting into the more psychological areas of how we elicit new insight. But that's one of the work streams, isn't it? Psychology and neuroscience.
Yes, it is. So this is an area actually quite close to my heart and to a number of the other team members. So we've got quite a few people with backgrounds in psychology and neuroscience. And I guess the term that most people will be familiar with in this area is behavioural economics. So this is where our stance on behavioural economics would stand, really. But it's not only that. So it's looking at behavioural economics and different ways of tapping the different systems of behaviour. So system 1 and 2. And maybe 3 if you believe in it. But also taking inspiration from other areas of psychology. So for example, we've got people with backgrounds in prospective psychology. I myself am interested in health psychology, so models of behaviour change. So it's kind of bringing all that together and applying it to market research. And then there are other techniques that we're looking at, so things like implicit reactions and actually how do we interpret data around that. So there's a whole lot of activity going on in this area.
And I think that's really important, is the interpretation of what we learn by applying these tools. It's not so much identifying what the nudge is.
We're not out heuristic spotting.
It's
not the lesser
we just
spotted.
don't want to tell you what it is. We want to tell you what it means for what you need to do, right?
Exactly. So it's always linked to recommendations. We're not sort of sticking labels on slides saying, hey, look, here's status quo. That's kind of not what we're about, but we are passionate about including psychology and neuroscience into our research.
It is so important, though, because I've seen it with a number of projects where in the industry we work with classifications of conditions and things like that, but actually when you go out and start to listen to the language that's being used and how physicians make decisions, it's not so cut and dry as level of severity.
Exactly. And it's about what they say in the language they use, but also the way that they say it and what they don't say often. So I think we're quite well versed in looking at the nuances in communication as well.
So what's the last work stream? I think we said we were going to talk around 3 today. What's the other one you've saved up for us?
So everybody's favourite, last but not least, is applications of different types of technology in research. And in some ways this is kind of linked in with some of the other work streams that I've talked about. But some specific examples that we're looking at are virtual reality, artificial intelligence, chatbots, artificial intelligence. Actually, I've mentioned under technology. There is. I know that you've got a view on this. Whether it is a technology,
it's science that's bettered by technology.
Exactly. So, and I mean, some of the areas that we're looking into underneath that, I'll call it a banner, are AI-powered chatbots, looking at automated coding, looking at how we can optimise surveys to be able to make the content more streamlined, for example. So there are a number of different tools that we're developing, and we have a team of very talented analysts who are far more expert than me.
I'm thinking about, because some of these are on the newer side of some of the other examples that we were talking about. I know we're actively doing some comparator sort of research to again make sure we don't fall for the hype, but we actually really do this in such a way it's giving us something different. So
a good example of that is the recent pilot work that we've done in virtual reality in collaboration with one of our clients. So that was really to look at, can virtual reality help physicians project themselves onto a future environment, but also can it help us better reflect the doctor-patient interaction? So we trialled that versus a control arm of research, so more traditional research. And I think what doing that type of thing can help us to do is really direct where is the best place to use this type of technology and which are the types of research projects that we should be suggesting it for, rather than, hey, we can do virtual reality, let's do it for everything.
So, well, thanks very much, Kirsty, today. That was a really good chat. And thanks to anyone who's tuned in. I hope you've enjoyed it.